Hey, it's Rochelle here, and I first want to say welcome to my page. This is a grown woman's perspective, and we're going to talk about whatever really hits your screen that interests me or the things that you guys want to hear me talk about. But it's going to be from the perspective of a grown woman. And when I say that, I'm saying like an over 40 woman, right? I like some of the same shows that younger people like, but I may have a different perspective on it. And so if you would like to hear from someone that may be like you, and hear my perspective on things, then go ahead and like this video, comment. We're definitely going to talk about it a little bit in the comments, and subscribe. Subscribe to the channel so that you can get all of the upcoming videos and content and perspectives that are coming your way. And so today, I want to talk about the Wendy Williams biopic. Oh my goodness. I truly, truly enjoyed it. I learned some things. Someone who has been around listening to Wendy throughout the years, you definitely got a chance to get a closer look into her life. And so I took some notes on this so that we can talk about this thing. And definitely we're going to talk about it down in the comments. So we had Miss Ciara Payton. Ciara Payton, in my opinion, she did her thing playing Wendy in that opening scene, the opening scene where she was sitting in that chair. She looked eerily like Wendy. They had her looking exactly like Wendy in that opening scene. Of course, as time went on, you could see the differences and stuff, and it wasn't always like you were really looking at Wendy, but in that opening scene, just like Wendy. And then the boobs and all, because you guys know from seeing Ciara and other things, she is very, very flat chested. So they definitely hooked her up. So let's talk about like just the events of this biopic. We had already heard, if you've watched other Wendy documentaries or biographies on her, you know that she struggled with her weight as a kid. She was a chubby little girl. Her family, especially her parents, they did not like that. They were constantly putting her on diets. They always wanted to try to get her to lose weight. She was teased in school because she was tall. It's like, she was tall and she was chubby. It was out of the norm. And if again, we're talking about grown woman, right? So, back when I was, Wendy is older than me, but back when I was in elementary and middle school, what we considered fat back then, when I look back on it now, is not even fat, what we would see as fat today, right? But anybody that had some extra weight, they were a little chubby, we called them fat. And so I can only imagine what Wendy dealt with at that time, that although she may have had some baby weight on her, if you look at some of her pictures from when she was younger, she had some baby weight on her. But I mean, to call her fat at the age of 10 and 11 was so unfair, right? But they did. And, her family was really, really tough on her. But one thing that I really, really love about Wendy, and I think that in one sense it serves her, in another sense it doesn't serve her, is just how tough she is. Like, she doesn't let things really bother her or get to her. She keeps it moving. She's not going to break down. You're going to see her strength shine through. Now, honestly, I think that in my opinion, it shows up in other ways, right? With the addictive personality, like the drugs and the alcohol and things of that nature. I think it shows up in other ways, but for what she has accomplished and is looking to continue to accomplish, I think that it serves her well in that capacity. So then we saw that as she grew up, she was a bedwetter and things of that nature. A lot of things probably got to her, and so she had a hard time. That was how it showed itself. The things that bothered her that she wasn't showing outwardly, I believe that it showed up in her bedwetting. And I think that's what they were trying to point out in the biopic. But then as she got older, she went off to college and things, and she ended up getting a job at a radio station. It was one of Kathy Hughes' Radio 1 radio stations. And for whatever reason, we saw that Kathy Hughes was not a big fan of Wendy. They kind of treated her like really bad, in my opinion, And One thing that she said is in order to take the weight off and keep it off, she started using cocaine. She used that to help her with her weight. She used that to be able to stay up, even though she was a lot of times working overnights at these radio stations. And again, it was something that she used to serve her purposes as she needed it to be used. A very, very dangerous game to be playing, but it was the game that she chose. And that is what it is, right? They showed that, at her job, she had interviewed a celebrity, a singer. They didn't really say who it was. In the show, it was Ricky Tony, right? And he ended up asking her out. She thought that it was really going to be for a date, but what wound up happening is he raped her. Ladies, I have to say that, as women, a lot of times we go through so many things. We go through things that, especially as Black women, that other people just would not understand. We have so many battles that we have to fight. And things like this is not a rare occurrence, right? These things happen to women all of the time. And for Wendy, it wasn't something that she told anyone. It wasn't something that she reported, but it did help her find her voice. And again, I think that shows who she is, because for a lot of women, this is something that would have caused her to go inward and not be able to find her voice. She used it the total opposite way, and she found her voice. She began speaking up for herself. She began talking about, what women go through, and she began to get more and more vocal in her career. She went out and she had an AIDS test, because HIV and AIDS was like a really, really big thing that was really popping on the scene at that time. People were getting it left and right. She went and had that test. Fortunately, it came back negative, but she called her dad to try to get a little bit of comfort. And it was really sad to see that he didn't even notice that anything was wrong when he had her on the phone. Not only did he not notice that anything was wrong, but her mom never got on the phone to say hey to her, even though they hadn't seen her. It was the lack of support from what we can see from the outside, to me, was just really, really, really sad. And then if you kind of fast forward, that Wendy's mom just passed away a couple of months ago, and there's this big controversy right now with her brother, who's saying, she didn't even come to mom's funeral. She didn't even come and support dad. And it kind of makes me wonder if there's a correlation there. There's definitely more to that story, and the reasons why she did or didn't do, things than what meets the eye. It's not just, oh, you didn't go to your mom's funeral. Well, we know that there's always more to the story. Okay, so after she was working at Radio 1, she went and she was working in D.C., but then she really wanted to work in New York. So she finally was able to land a job in New York, and it was only on the weekends. And so during the week, she worked in D.C. On the weekends, she commuted to New York, and she did her thing there, and then came on back to D.C. I love that drive. Finally, she got offered a full-time gig in New York, and she was able to kind of go to Kathy and be like, look, I'm resigning. And they kind of dissed her. And she's like, what? Okay, I can show you better than I can tell you. She went to New York. She got that job for $60,000. She had only been making $9,000 at Radio 1. I love it. I love that she never had to look back. And I'm still just curious, why was she so mean to her? Interesting. Maybe a hater. I don't know. But eventually she was fired by Hot 97. And then she went over to Kiss FM, still in New York. She met Tony Ford. She got to fill in for her idol, Carol Brown. And she decided she was going to dish some dirt. She loved the tabloids. And so she said, I'm going to dish some dirt on this radio station. He loved it. He was like, we don't do this here, but we're going to find you a full-time spot because we need this here, right? We found out, too, that she dated Eric B. from Eric B. and Rakim. I never knew that. Maybe you guys did. If you knew that, go ahead and tell me in the comments that you knew it. Maybe I'm just behind on that. That was really news to me, right? But I know that from what was said in the biopic is he used her, he ruined her credit. She rented a car for him that he never returned, and then when she did finally track him down, he came and like threw the keys like she hadn't done anything for him. And unfortunately, once they broke up, she found out she was pregnant. She went and she got an abortion because she didn't want to have anything to do with him. Again, ladies, this is one of those things that a lot of times we find ourselves in, right? Because we would be the ones that would have to deal with it. He got to go on about his business. He never even knew that she was pregnant, much less was getting an abortion. But she knew that if she had that baby, that would be something that she would have to deal with and be connected to him for life. And so that was her choice to do that. And, without divulging personal information about yourself, ladies, I really would like to hear in the comments, about if you've ever been in one of those situations where you're like, if I was a man, I would never be in this situation. But because I'm a woman, now I'm stuck having to deal with this, whether it's some kind of sexual harassment, whether it's now you find out that you're pregnant, whether it's you're being used by someone, you thought that you were in this relationship, but come to find out it was something else. I want to hear from you in the comments. Let's talk about that. Because I think that's important. Then in 94, she met Kelvin. Kelvin is, of course, the guy that was her husband, like 22-year relationship or marriage. And we got to see him. We got to see him in a good light, right? He had swag. He was, she really, really liked him. He was pretty funny. She felt really comfortable, right? She fell in love really quick with him. And you could kind of see from the role that he played in the beginning why she fell in love with him. Like, he was a really, really sweet guy. It wasn't until later that he began to show his true colors. She told him, look, I'm getting me some breast implants. I'm getting me some lipo because this is what I want to do for me, right? He supported her. He's like, go for it. Do what you got to do. I think that you're fine the way you are, but do what you got to do. And then she went on the radio and she talked about her surgery. She talked about her lipo, her plastic surgery. And they got mad. That was crazy to me. So anyway, I guess that was something new that, people don't talk about this kind of stuff on the radio. And so her job didn't like that she did. And because we know that she talked about celebrities all the time, she went and she got the gossip, whether she was getting it from the tabloids, whether she was getting gossip on somebody from somebody else. She talked about it on air. Well, Total was the singing group Total. She talked about them often at a certain time period. Well, they came to her job. They came and they met her outside and they were going to whip up on Wendy. But Kelvin showed up and he saved the day. He did not let anything happen to her. Look, if a man is sweet to you, he makes you laugh, he's showing you that he loves you and he's able to protect you. Again, I can see why Wendy fell hard for this man. And she stopped doing coke on her own. She felt like because she was with Kelvin, she had what she needed and she no longer needed the drug. And so she stopped on her own cold turkey without rehab. Guys, that don't happen, right? Like, I've never been on drugs, but I have heard that, drug addiction is one of those things that almost will have a hold on you for life, right? You're always in jeopardy of going there. And so for her to be able to stop on her own, again, I think is a testament to who she is and who she's become through the things that she's gone through in her life. Let me know what you guys think about that. If you've had, people in your life that maybe have been addicted and the difficulties that they have. Have you ever known someone to stop cold turkey? I think that is powerful. Very, 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 very powerful. And so, guys, if you like what you're hearing so far, don't forget, please communicate with me in the comments. I want to talk to you. I'm going to do my best to answer everybody. I want to have a dialogue with you and subscribe to this channel because you're definitely going to get more content like this from my perspective. How about that? So let's move on. So she talked about a gay rapper, right? She was like, there's this gay rapper and blah, blah, blah. But she wouldn't say the name, which was cool. I think that was a smart choice. But then Puffy, he called into the radio station to complain. How about that? So who was she talking about? I don't know. But Puffy called to complain. She got suspended, but they said, you know what? We're not going to stop paying you because you're under contract. We're not going to fire you because you're under contract, but we are going to sit you down. And so they sent her home, and she was like, okay. Well, let me see what this contract consists of. I'm going to go home, I'm going to get my pay, but I'm going to go work someplace else. And so she saw in the contract that they didn't want her to work within a certain amount of miles of New York. And so what she did is she went to Philly and she got a job with Power 99 FM. Now, I used to listen to Power 99 FM all the time whenever I was near Philly, and I could get the station to come in. I loved that station. Look, she went to work for them. She took them from like number 14 or 15 to number 1. They had the top spot in radio, all because of Wendy. Now that's my girl right there, right? That's powerful. That means that she's the baddest in the business. She always really has been. There hasn't been another Wendy before or since she did her thing. Now they showed us that while she was with Power 99, she actually had her first miscarriage. Now, we know that she had an abortion earlier, but now she had a miscarriage. She shared it with her listeners from Power 99, which I think probably made them connect with her even more. Got pregnant again, right? And this time she carried a baby to 5 months and she miscarried. Now, I am a mom 3 times over, and I know by the time you're at 5 months, I mean, like, you're really connected to your baby, you know, and you can feel the movement and you're showing and you're excited, you know, and all of those things. And to have miscarried at 5 months, I know that had to be devastating. And the crazy thing is, even after going through that, she got pregnant again. She was like, look, we're doing this thing again. And she carried that baby to 5 months and miscarried yet again. Guys, this had to be devastating. It had to be devastating to her. You know, she had to actually deliver that baby, like push the baby out, knowing that the baby was no longer alive. Devastating for sure. I mean, I have no doubt. Now, I've never had a miscarriage, but I know that somebody watching this has. So my heart goes out to anybody who has had to deal with that. You know, that baby that she delivered was a girl, and it was devastating to her. And I'm sure you can imagine that it was. And so she and Kelvin got married. She said that Kelvin was like, maybe the reason that we're not able to have this baby is because we're not doing this thing right. So let's get married. She was all for it. She went to a doctor. She told that she had a weak cervix and that she was not able to carry a baby basically on her feet. And so she was like, okay, got it. Got pregnant again and said, this time I'm doing it from my bed. She's like, I'm not getting up. I'm not going to be trying to walk around and lose another baby. And so she told the radio station, she's like, look, I need to do this from home, from my bed. She stayed in her bed and she broadcast live every day from home. She says she gained 101 or 104. I think it was 101 or 104, but it was 100 pounds that she gained while she was pregnant with little Kelvin, who was born in 2000, right? That we all know that that's her pride and joy. That is her baby. It was funny to me. One thing I laughed about is that while she was in the delivery room, her mom was in the delivery room with her, but her mom never came there. She just stood back with her purse on her shoulder. I laughed. I said, no, why that woman standing back there with her purse on her shoulder the whole time? Thought that was hilarious. Did you guys notice that? So this was when a couple months after Kelvin was born, little Kelvin was born, is when she found out that her husband was having an affair, right? She heard him sneaking on the phone in the middle of the night with someone, and he lied and said, you know, this is someone that I used to mess with, but it's over now. She just wants money, blah, blah, blah. Well, Wendy hired a private investigator, had him followed. She had him followed a couple of different places. and found out that he was still seeing this girl. And so she said, you know what? I don't want any more children with this man. She went and she got her an IUD. She was like, I want the 10-year kind because I'm not having any more kids with him. That's out. She went and did that without his consent. Good for her. At this point, she really wanted to get out of Philly because she felt like if she could get her family out of there, then maybe that would get Kevin away from his new girlfriend. Well, we know that that never works, right? Because if a man wants to cheat, he's going to cheat. If a person wants to cheat, he's going to cheat. And location, geography, proximity doesn't really matter. Once your mind is made up, you're going to do what you want to do. And that's exactly what she found. So she talked back to Vinny, which was the guy from the old radio station. She let him know she wanted to come back. And he was like, all right, we can get you back on. And then it was on the move back to New York. She was actually supposed to start working on 9/11, 2001. We know the Twin Towers came down that day. And so, things kind of got a little pushed back, but she decided she was going to go ahead and write a book. She wanted to write a book about her life. And she told her husband, she said, you know what? I want to be honest about your affair in this book. And he was like, okay, I understand. And so she was honest. She said I never read Wendy's book. Anybody read her book? Tell me about it in the comments. If you did read it, is it worth reading? Is it something that I should pick up? Is it something that I should look up? Let me know if you read that book, because I never have read it. And then one night they were out at a club and she saw Kevin talking to a girl. We saw Charlemagne, an actor that plays Charlemagne, made a little appearance. And she asked, who was that? And he told her, that's Sherina. I introduced them. They're from the same city, blah, blah, blah. But Wendy knew. Women's intuition, right? We all have it, ladies. I know that you have it, just like I have it. You know when something is not right, right? And so, the next we started now beginning to see Kevin's controlling nature. His controlling nature. We had a producer that wanted to give Wendy her own TV show. And Kevin was like, no, I'm not going to let you do it unless it's your own show. And I'm going to tell you what, even though he had a very controlling nature, I think that in a lot of ways he did do a lot of things that were good for her, things that made her stay in the spotlight, things that were in her benefit. So I'll give him that. So for sure, I will definitely give him that. She finally did get her own show, and they called the show Hot Topics, right? And we know that on the Wendy Williams show, there is a segment called Hot Topics that Wendy does in the very beginning of the show. And she was so busy on the talk show, she didn't even realize how out of control and just grandiose Kevin's affair had gotten. He was out there. By the time she really calmed down and looked around, he was really out there. And what she found out from a friend of theirs is he was actually living in a house in New Jersey with Sherina. Right? And this guy, Ryan, she was like, look, give me the address. He gave her the address. He actually drove her to the house. And she did a couple things, like glued the mailbox shut and spray painted the house and all that kind of stuff. Kevin and Wendy forever. She spray painted that on the garage door. And, just to kind of let him know that she was there. And, with the stress of that, she actually started drinking again. She hadn't drank, from what it showed in the show, she hadn't had a drink or done coke in all of that time. So I'm just assuming that that's what they were trying to say. But she started drinking again. Fortunately, she didn't start using coke or anything like that again. She was just drinking. When she did a little bit of research, she found out Kevin had bought this house in his business name so that it wasn't tied to him. And he tried to make it this was an investment property. It was an investment property. That's why it's in my business name. So he could say, have all of these little things that he could say to her to try to make her believe that he wasn't doing what he was actually doing. She wanted to leave him at that time. She said she wanted to leave him, but their son, Kevin, was 2 years away from going off to college. And she was like, she didn't want to, break up their family while he still had 2 years to go. She didn't want to disrupt his childhood, so to speak. And she said it was a miserable and a long 2 years, At this point, they show when they had the Halloween show and Wendy was dressed as the Statue of Liberty and she fell out. We know that infamous clip. Well, honey, Sierra, she did her thing. Like, I didn't see any differences between the way Wendy fell out and the way Sierra fell out. Do you guys agree with this? Go in the comments and tell me if you agree with this. I think Sierra did her thing. She put her acting hat on for that. She fell out just like Wendy did. And we saw her, threaten Kevin again that, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to lose me. Now, she had threatened him with that earlier. And it seemed like whenever she said it, he got like, nervous or, started like, no, don't leave me type of thing. So that must have been a thing that he didn't want, was to lose her. She went off to rehab concerning her drinking in November 2018. So now we're really close. A lot of this is really close to what we're experiencing with her now over the past few years. So she went off to rehab and they wouldn't let her have access to a phone. Well, she kind of bribed one of the guys that worked there and he got her a phone. When she Googled her name, she got a chance to see, what all of the bloggers and vloggers were talking about. And the big thing at that time was that Sherina was pregnant. She saw that Sherina was pregnant. Crazy. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine, like, I kind of know what my husband is doing, but I'm kind of putting up with it. Maybe because I'm too busy to do anything about it. Maybe because I want to keep my family together for my son's sake, my children's sake. Or maybe, I'm willing to accept some of this so that I'm not by myself. Like, regardless of what the reason is, you're not expecting a baby. You're not expecting him to be that careless, right? So she found out, definitely, again, devastated. So in March of 2019 is when she told her audience that she had been living in a sober living house. And she said the reason that she wanted to tell them is because, they were, the media, the paparazzi, we know how paparazzi is, right? They were following her around anyway, and they were already starting to be little talks about what was going on. And so Wendy, always being the one to do the celebrity gossip and be in everybody's business, she's like, I have to tell it. I have to tell on myself as far as what's going on in my life so that I don't look like a hypocrite. And so she did. She confessed to her audience that in March 2019, that is what had been going on with her. These two guys were driving her back and forth between work and the sober living house every day. And it was almost like they were there to imprison her almost. They wouldn't let her do anything that she wanted to do. And then one day she finally escaped from them. She sneaks off to a meeting because she wanted to make sure she legally and financially freed herself from Kevin. And she also wanted to file for divorce, right? We found out, too, that Kevin was her medical proxy, and he was really trying to force her to continue in this rehab, which is crazy to me. Like, why are you acting like this woman cannot make decisions on her own? She is fully capable of making her decisions for herself and holding things down for herself, just like she was before him and just like she would have been even without him. Wendy knew everything that he was doing, though. She knew everything that he was doing. And he tried to convince her that she was nothing without him, but she stood strong. And what we know is, today they are actually divorced. And he has moved on, and him and Sherina have had their baby. And whatever's going on in their relationship is going on. And Wendy continues. She's had some struggles. She recently lost her mom. Her brother has now kind of turned against her and is doing, a YouTube page and putting out videos about her. And she's continuing to thrive, though. And it is what it is, right? She's strong. I just hope that she stays healthy. And I hope that she continues to take care of herself mentally, spiritually, physically, of course, because she does have some issues, health challenges and things of that nature. And maybe even some mental things. This woman has been through a lot. She has been through a lot. So guys, don't forget to like this video. Don't forget, let's talk a little bit in the comments. That's what I'm trying to say. Let's talk a little bit in the comments about this biopic. Did you enjoy it? Did you get a chance to watch it? Did you enjoy it? And, what were your thoughts? Do you think that there were other things that should have been included? Do you know things about Wendy that that she left out? She mentioned even that she had been married one time before Kevin, but it wasn't worth talking about. So we know that she did leave some things out because she didn't feel like they were the good, juicy stuff that we would want to hear about or need to hear about in her story. But do you know something that you think that she should have put in there that would have made the story even juicier? I personally enjoyed it, learned some things about her, and thought that she did a really, really good job executive producing this biopic about herself. So guys, thank you for joining. Thanks for watching. And you've been here with A Grown Woman's Perspective with Rochelle. So go ahead. Don't forget to like this video. Of course, meet me in the comments and subscribe to this channel if you would love to hear more content like this about the things and the shows and the movies and everything that interests you as much as it interests me. With that being said, have a good one. I'll see you on the next video.